2 people have been injured in an explosion in Woodstock in Cape Town last night. A fire broke out at a building on the corner of Plein and Victoria Streets, we're told. It was followed by several secondary explosions shortly after. The cause of the blast is still unknown. But joining us now is MMC for Safety and Security in Cape Town, JP Smith, on the line. JP, thanks very much for coming on to give us a sense of what happened. What do you know so far?
Good morning, Michelle. Around 8 o'clock last night, the fire department received a call about a fire that was followed, as you've said, by several further explosions. There's quite a lot of footage from residents in the area who recorded the incident. One can see the excessive blasts with short intervals, and people on the scene described it as something from a movie or a scene of civil war, with the cars outside damaged, one completely burnt out, and the entire shop front blown out. It's a suspected gas explosion. From the further explosions, one can estimate it, and residents who live nearby said that the explosion was not just loud enough to be heard, but to be felt through the walls of their own building as the entire area reverberated with the explosion. We had multiple vehicles on scene. We were lucky in that a couple of years ago, right before that massive parliamentary fire, the city acquired a whole series of large aerial appliances, and these were put to good use yesterday with that fire, as it allowed us to get in and extinguish the fire fairly quickly, and then solid waste started clearing the debris from the streets. The 2 patients that you referred to had 70 and 100% burn wounds, according to the staff on scene, and they were rushed to Grooteskier Hospital, and that apparently included the owner. The building inspector has now inspected the building and presumably will declare it unsafe for further occupation.
Yeah, so those 2 people injured, and in fact critically so. JP, you talked about suspected gas leak being to blame for this explosion, and obviously there will be investigations in the coming days as well. But is there any kind of sense of foul play here?
It is unfortunately so that with this particular place is next to a late-night barbecue venue, and it is potentially so that the gas there either became unsafe or was not safely or appropriately installed, or that there was some negligence somewhere. But either way, that has now cost those owners dearly and their neighbours. The damage is extreme. So the fire department will do a proper assessment today, and then give an indication about where they think it came from. I think last night everything was still too hot for them to poke around much.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the visuals from last night. We're playing it on our screens, and you're absolutely right. It does really look from like a scene from a movie, or, as you say, a scene from wartime somewhere in the world. It looks incredibly dangerous, what happened there. Those 2 people who were critically injured, JP, are they the only 2 people caught up with serious injuries? Any other milder injuries sustained in what happened there?
No, ma'am. Those were the only 2 that we're aware of. Fortunately, it didn't sound like the premises was actively busy or that there were people in. It may be that it was closed already at the time. Fortunate that there weren't significantly more people there to be injured, but there are a lot of apartments in the area, so the streets were quickly filled with hundreds of people coming to look at the scene, and so there's a great deal of footage from spectators or people witnessing the incident available, and this will obviously be of some interest to the South African police as well, who will want to look at it. But we are lucky that there weren't more people on site. We do not often have incidents of this nature. It's a rarity, and so fire will want to go and determine the cause of it, and we have an entire unit of fire safety inspectors who we have invested a great deal of training and capability in, and their job is, among others, to go and determine exactly what went wrong in these cases, and we'll put out something to that effect today.
All right. MMC for Safety and Security, JP Smith, thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning. The latest on that explosion that took place in Woodstock in Cape Town. You can see in one snippet of the visuals we were showing you there, there's a shot of the building itself. I think it's to the right of the side of the street there on the left-hand side. But it does appear that, there it is, it does appear that there's very little left of that building. And as JP Smith described to us, thankfully, this didn't happen on a weekend where perhaps there would have been a lot more people caught up in this. But yeah, 2 people seriously injured with 70% and 100% burns sustained in that explosion. So a report coming from the city, according to JP Smith, a little later on today.
Absolutely.